Well, let's welcome Gbolahan Olojede. He is a public affairs analyst. Good morning and glad to have you on the show.
Good morning. Nice to be on the program.
Morning.
Good morning. All right. So before we start going into the discussion proper, for those who are not aware, let's start off. What is regional economic integration and what are the primary objectives?
Okay. As the word itself sounds, regional. So an example of a region is the West Africa region. An example is Sub-Saharan Africa, which excludes North Africa and then take the rest of Africa. So integration is coming together, looking at putting together the various parts into one and try to make them work together. It depends on what you want to achieve. In this particular case, we're talking of economic. It could have been security. It could have been any other thing for which you want a region to work together on. In this case, we're talking of economic integration in the region. So West African region or Sub-Saharan Africa are such regions where we can have economic integration.
That's a very good answer, right? Before Olumide comes in, though, I'd like to ask, I want you to paint a picture for us. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How then would you say this reduces trade barriers within a region, right? Let me take that again. How does reducing trade barriers within a region stimulate economic growth? And what does it look like? Removal of tariffs or reduction of tax? What is it, though? Let me not put words in your mouth.
Those are part of it. You started it. Part of how to integrate the economy of a region is reduction or removal of tariffs. It also has to do with.
Oh, I think the network. A thought came into my head.
I think Gbolahan is
okay,
back.
it's back.
Regions.
All right.
With minimum.
Gbolahan, we lost you there, so can you please start over again?
Yeah, so I was talking about tariff. Of course, removal of tariff is one of the ways to integrate a region economically. People must also be able to move.
Yeah.
So issues about difficulty with visas are part of things that will hinder economic integration. Then issues around, financing, issues around transportation, they are all issues that will affect or will have an impact on economic integration. In Africa, we do not trade amongst ourselves. That has been an established fact. As a matter of fact, we prefer to go to Europe or to Asia to go and import items that we need into Africa, while some of this same product will actually be available in the same Africa. So why are we not trading with ourselves? This is at the heart of economic integration. If we're deliberate about economic integration, then it means we will do more trade amongst ourselves than going outside there. There's a Dangote refinery now in Nigeria, and with a huge capacity. Meanwhile, most African countries do not have refineries, so they import the product. Where do they import it from? Or Europe, Asia, or the Americas. So the question is, if there is one at your back end, why must you go to Kazakhstan to go and import BMS if you can get it from the back end?
That's a very good question.
All right. A thought came to my head, and I'd like you to take us through. There was a time there was an agenda that was they were pushing for African Union, whereby we would have a unified currency for Africans, just like the euro and all that. Could you take us through what happened and why that particular bill or thought or mandate or whatever did not fly?
We tried it with AU. I think ECOWAS also tried it. So we can even start from the ECOWAS attempt. I think one of the major problems was the inability of the countries within the region to agree on certain important matter regarding the currency. When you push a common currency, there must be certain common policies as well. It is those common policies that will allow the common currency to work. So there were pushbacks from Francophone countries, for example. Francophone countries are more closely linked with the colonial master, which is France. And France tend to have a voice in their policy and policy direction and what they can do or they cannot do as far as the economy is concerned. So there were resistance from the Francophone countries within the ECOWAS sub-region to matters of so some of those resistance are not they are not open, they are not something that are vocalized, they are literally very subtle. But what you find out is that if you cannot adopt policies that will make this thing work across the sub-region, then the issue of common currency will simply not work. Anyway, even the euro is facing its own challenges. We've seen as UK has pulled out of the euro to go back to pound sterling.
Yeah, I know the Brexit was big deal when it happened, right? And then there's something you said earlier on about Africa not doing trade with Africans. Africa alone is a huge market. So I want us to push this a little bit. When you talk about free trade zones, this is imperative, right? Let's talk about free trade zones in Nigeria. Does one come to your mind? There was one or there's still one in Cross River?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the viability of these free trade zones, and how it helps integrate regional economics.
Well, free trade zones are typically zones that are created for certain activities. It could be light manufacturing, and sometimes it could even go beyond light manufacturing. But the product, you create a circumstance that makes their cost profile to be low. And the products that are produced in those regions are largely not made to be taken back into those countries, but to be exported. So there seems to be a deliberate creation of a zone where the products are meant to be shipped out to other countries for export purposes. But you see, one of the main problems across Africa is actually still competitive cost of manufacturing. So where what you are manufacturing is not going to be competitive by virtue of your cost profile, the question will be, why should I buy from you because you're an African country when I can get that same product from China for less? So if I can get it for less, price tends to drive whether I will look at you just because you are from my region, or I want a cheaper price of the product for my people. And that is an area of complexity. So part of the problem that must also be solved is the cost of doing business in the region. So the power cost, the transport, all the costs put together that go into it must be such that at the end of the day, the final output will be competitive, and it will not be something that will make another African country that will have imported from us, to start considering going to Taiwan or China for the same product that is available just beside the country.
All right, Gbolahan, from the last submission you made about the African Union and why it could not fly, I could see that one of the things I picked out was that for there to be some sort of integration of African countries, there has to be some form of or total disconnection from colonialist or colonial countries. So now let's look at the benefits. What are the main benefits of regional economic integration for participating countries?
You have a larger market. That is very important. So when you integrate an economy, Africa is over 1 billion people. So rather than, if we have an integrated market, so rather than talking as a Nigerian about a 200 million market, I'll be talking about a 1.5 billion market. That's the size of my market now. So if I have a product that is attractive in a market of 200 million people, the money I make will be multiple fold if I can make that same product available to a larger market of 1.5 billion people.
Yeah.
So to expand the market it also expands even the financing, the capacity to raise financing to be able to expand the business is also expanded by virtue of an economic integration. If issues around even the how each of those countries are performing their inflation issues, and you see, when you are reporting in Europe, you report something called Eurozone as well. So you can talk about inflation in Eurozone. You can talk about this and that and other economic indices about the Eurozone. It is difficult in an unintegrated market. Each of those countries will have widely different indices that you cannot begin to talk of a zone in that. But under an integrated economy, because certain policies are sort of harmonized across members in that integrated region, it becomes easier to be able to speak about that zone as a single zone, and a lot of the indices will not fly out of order too much. They will be close to each other. What is inflation in this place? What is the employment in this other place? You have an element of, congruence, unlike what we have in Africa.
All right, I like us to be practical here. Now, you talked about harmonizing policies and all that, but let's look at Nigeria now. If we open up, the border is still closed. If you open up the border, yes, it will encourage export, but Nigeria is still consuming a whole lot. So how can we solve our problem and also benefit from this economic integration?
Open the border, we must ask ourselves, open the border for what? One of the problems with AFCFTA, which is the African, trade agreement that was signed a couple of years ago, was the issue of what exactly do you have to offer. So if you open your border, let's use an example of Benin Republic and Nigeria. Some years ago when I was in healthcare, I had visited Cotonou to speak with one of our acquaintances there, or our business partners actually. And he told me about certain centers, cancer centers that are being built in Cotonou. And he said that the target is for Nigerian patients.
Wow.
So, yes. So you also have something similar with rice importation, for example. What we would have loved to expand in Nigeria would be that we're able to, improve our production of rice. But when you open that border, what you will see is that the Republic will have imported all the rice and will flood it into Nigeria. What I would have loved to see, or what we would have loved to see, is if that rice was actually produced in Benin Republic. That is some sort of economic integration. Let's say Benin Republic has a comparative advantage to produce rice. Then in an economically integrated situation, rice from Benin Republic coming into Nigeria is a good thing under the economic integration of the region. But where those rice are still coming from Vietnam or from China and just stockpiled in Cotonou, and then once you open the border, they flood your market with it, the utility, the essence is sort of defeated. So when you're opening the border, you must not do it in isolation. You must consider several other factors and be sure that you are opening the border for the right thing.
All right, now, as we make a home run now, under a minute, Gbolahan, earlier on we talked about the healthiness of competition, right? How the Port Harcourt refinery is up and how it will be healthy competition for Dangote refinery. So this is my question as regards this particular topic. How does regional integration improve global competitiveness for member nations?
Okay, what it does, well, I was particular about Dangote, but not Port Harcourt refinery.
Okay.
Port Harcourt refinery, 42,000 barrels per day, very controversial.
Yes.
Controversial, a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Will not be enough, will not be strong enough as a competition for Dangote with 650,000.
Okay.
So that's not an issue.
Okay.
The other part of your question, I think I forgot it now.
We're talking about competitiveness. How if you have regional... Yes.
Yeah. You see, part of what will start to happen in an economically integrated situation is that we start to get more conscious about competitiveness. So the question will be,
wow. Okay.
Let's just use an arbitrary product. Let's say I want to get corn from Ghana. If the price of corn in Ghana is such that it will be cheaper for me to bring the corn from the US, why will I buy from Ghana? I won't buy from Ghana. I would prefer to go and get it from where it is cheaper. Yeah. So producers start to get more conscious within the region, start to get more conscious about competitiveness and do something to make their own prices more competitive and preferable by the buyers within the sub-region. So it helps competitiveness. And of course, you know what drives competitiveness. It's improve efficiency, improve cost profile, and that is generally better for everybody. It's better for Africa or better for the sub-region, and it's better globally because it means we're improving. Heavy cost is a sign of inefficiency. Being able to be competitive is a sign of improved efficiency, which is better for the sub-region and for the global service.
Right.
I think that's a safe place to land. Thank you very much, Gbolahan Olojede. This is a very powerful and impactful topic we've just discussed, and thank you for the knowledge you've shared with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.